I don't know. It just was weird. You have Friday night happen, and that was pretty bad. I think the vibes were maybe nearing a season low at that point, as low as they can get in mid to late April. And they still found a way to come back and take 3 or 4 in the series, and they probably should have swept the 4-game series. Weird to try to wrap my brain around how I should feel about coming out of that the way that I do, but overall, pretty pleased with a series win, a pretty impressive series win against a pretty decent Baltimore team.
Don't undersell it. That was a really impressive series. It is really hard to win a 4-game series, and they should have swept it. So enough talking, hit the button, play the music.
Oh, you want that, huh?
I want that. They deserve it.
I don't know if this bit even goes over anymore.
Oh, it does.
But you called for it, so I'm not going to be the guy that stands in the way of it.
Look, they had a tough go in Atlanta, and I think that was kind of expected. The Braves are really good, even with their injuries. That was a disappointing series in St. Louis. That was the first series this year where it was just like, no excuses. That was just not good enough. And Stephen Vogt called them out. And then they came home, no off day. They win the series opener. About Parker Messick. What a performance. I know we talked about it, but
there's so much from this weekend I want to get into.
But then to come back that night, Friday night, that is a gut punch. It's especially a gut punch because he didn't have enough separation from that Cardinals series. You know, at that point, you'd lost 3 or 4, and 2 of them were just brutal, painful losses. And what a response over the weekend. Every game, I know Cantillo ran into some trouble there, but by and large, this team is getting such good starting pitching. I know the bullpen has not been perfect, but if that's the weak spot, there's enough of a contingency plan there that I think they'll be okay in the long run. They might need to make some moves or fix some things.
Start accelerating the plan, yeah.
I think that is fixable one way or another. And look, I know overall, the offense still 97 OPS plus, which tells you it's like a tick below league average. But some of the performances they're getting, and still, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, so it needs to start panning out. Some of the guys who aren't doing anything, who have track records of doing stuff, Quan, Manzardo, I think that they'll be okay. And you're getting better at bats 1 through 9. I asked for the club music for one reason. Clip this, do whatever you want, post it on. Our social media intern's going crazy on Instagram lately. Follow us there, Selvia's Godcast. I think the Guardians are good. I just think they're a good team. I think they can beat you in different ways. I think the offense is more capable. I think the rotation's really good. I think this is a good team.
I was trying to make sure it was okay. Clip it, send it out on wherever you want. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, if the clips are there, we're going to put them up where people can find them. Anyway, I come out of this weekend impressed by being able to flush. Every time they do it, I get impressed by flushing bad losses. And you compound that coming out of the St. Louis series where you had sort of like an equally as brutal loss hidden within this stretch. And it's weird because you come the opener with Parker Messick doing what he did to a point where I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to happen until Zach tweeted, but that's a story for another day. And then Friday, where the grand slam, and it's 4-0, and really, you're sky high at that point, and to lose it, and to get punched in the gut that way, and then come back the next 2 games, I'm just impressed. I'm impressed. It takes a lot to be able to dismiss that, get over it. Good starting pitching helps you get there, and they've gotten that a lot in this series. And recently, Gavin Williams was absolutely spectacular, looking every bit like the ace. Yeah, Joey Cantillo, he lost it, but for most of that game, he looked really good. Okay. And then when they came back, you came back as well. So there's nothing that I come out of this series outside of the bullpen that I think can fix itself as this year unfolds, that I'm like really panicked about. I'm feeling really solid about where they're at offensively. I think we're seeing signs from some of the guys that are important in this lineup outside of Kyle Manzardo, maybe. But there was a few game stretch where I thought maybe we were seeing him come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But just overall, they're in a good place. They're in a good place, and the things that are a problem, I think, can remedy themselves just as the year unfolds.
I think to me it's just the offense. I think the offense just feels more formidable, and so you don't feel like you have to win every single game 2-1. I thought, like, it took some time. It felt like every game in this series was scoreless until the 6th or 7th inning, except the Sunday game. And then the offense got on track. But the fact that, like, and again, it's been different people at different times. It was Chase DeLauder carried you for the first couple of weeks. Then Angel Martinez carried you. Daniel Schneemann has been incredible lately. Brayan Rocchio has been really good. And so you're just getting guys at the bottom of the order when the middle of your order or the top of your order isn't going. Obviously, Jose Ramirez is doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now too. And so you're just getting – that's the key. Everyone's going to ebb and flow throughout a season. Can you get enough guys ebbing – or flowing when certain guys are ebbing to compensate for it? And I feel like I don't have the numbers in front of me compared to last year, but it feels like they're drawing more walks. We know that they're seeing more pitches per plate appearance, and there just aren't. It could be the top of the lineup that gets you. It could be the bottom of the lineup that gets you. It could be the middle of the lineup. It just feels more functional, and so they can go score runs in bunches at times. They have different guys hitting home runs. They can steal bases. I mean, Jose Ramirez is leading the league in steals at the age of 33. It's incredible. And by the way, he's now up to 6 home runs. So it's just, it feels like a more well-rounded team than I think we're accustomed to in recent seasons. And I say that knowing I also think it'll get better as it goes. I think Bo Naylor is due for better results. I think Kyle Manzardo and Steven Kwan will be better. And I think in time, again, like the bullpen, it might take a while, but there's a path to Espino and Walters and Alomar.
Yeah, there might be some
trade
changes
acquisition.
in there. Yeah. Hunter Gaddis just working his way into the season. And like you're seeing the old Hunter Gaddis in there, and then the results of being behind everybody else as well. You hope Armstrong gets on track, and Cade Smith, who we'll get to coming up as well. There really is just a lot of this weekend that I want to get into and pick apart. And let's start with Jose. You mentioned him leading baseball now in 10 stolen bases. He has the 6 home runs. I texted you a couple of days ago. We know he's aware of his numbers, and there are times where he decides, I want 40-40. I'm going to do it, and I'm setting my brain to it. I'm going into that mode. Right now, it feels like he isn't in his brain. I think he wants 60 steals. And is he chasing a 60? I think it's
because you know
60
if you
always
asked
in my
him,
brain.
You know, if you said to him, "Are you going for 60 steals?" He'd say 100.
Right. I'm saying he's probably thinking, I want to lead baseball in stolen bases. But to me, I'm thinking he has in his brain somewhere, if there is actual numbers you're putting on it, is he chasing that 40-60 season? He's just trying to be the stolen base guy, and he has it in his brain, especially in April. If you're doing this in April, sometimes he waits until later in the year, and then he starts turning it on in stolen bases when he gets in his brain, I can get to this certain number. I think he wants to potentially lead baseball, and I think get beyond the 44 career high. I think he's got much, much higher stolen base totals in his sights, and he wants to add that to the back of his baseball card and his baseball reference page.
So when he set the games played record for Cleveland history, they gave him third base, right? So it's sitting beside his locker after the game that night, and we're standing around. We interview him. The scrum breaks up, and he looks at me and he goes, "You want it?" He's pointing to the base, and he goes, "Take it home. You can have it." And with Jose, like, what are these times I'm going to call his bluff, and I'm just going to take the thing he offers me, whether it's his car.
You all saw it. He gave it to me. What do you want?
I joked. I was like, the bases are bigger now. I don't have space for it. And he said, he's like, yeah, it's easier to steal bases now, right? And I was thinking about that in recent days because obviously they changed the base size like a little bit. It's not, that didn't make everybody Ricky Henderson, but the rule changes. Everything has helped in the fact that he has now set a career high in stolen bases the last 2 years, 41 and 44. And he's certainly on pace to shatter that this year. But the amazing thing, and this isn't new, but he's 33 years old. He ranks in the 51st percentile in sprint speed. The dude is average speed at this point in his career. And you could say that, he's got this goal in mind. He's going to be more aggressive. But he's not reckless because he's 10 for 10. He hasn't been caught. And that's the thing I marvel at is the success rate's always pretty high. And so to be able to just like press a button and say, all right, I'm doing this season is incredible. And I know that he drew a ton of walks over the weekend, so his on-base percentage is a lot healthier now. But there was a time, less than a week ago where he was leading the league in stolen bases and his on-base percentage was like 260. So just wait until he is actually like slapping singles all over the place and then can add to that total. It's remarkable. And someone asked me recently, like, which of these, because he sets a new record or passes someone on some list every single game, right? Someone asked me recently, like, what's the most impressive? What's the one that like stops you and you're like, whoa, we're witnessing greatness? And to me, it's always been he's on the cusp of 300, right? 300 home runs, 300 steals. He'll be the 9th player in Major League history to do that. And it's a cool list. It's Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, A-Rod, Andre Dawson. And there's a few guys in there like Steve Finley, Reggie Sanders, who were well-rounded players, not Hall of Famers. But the one that gets me is that like in 2 years, he could get to 350, and that would just be him and Barry Bonds. And I just think that's the best example of how rare a skill set it is. And he's sort of putting it on full display right now where 6 home runs is up there. I know like Yordan Alvarez has gone nuts lately, so I think he's at 10. But the guy, Jose's on pace for what? 35 home runs, 36 home runs, and 60-some stolen bases. Like, that just doesn't happen. And so you're still seeing at the age of 33, this guy's skill set being on full display. And very few players do what he does.
Well, he's setting himself up to be in the conversation for that MVP once again. And having the gaudy numbers that back up the fact that we know he's so good across the board is maybe that thing that finally pushes him over the finish line. Because it's easy to make his case because based on just pure value. And to this point in voting, I think most voters are looking at WAR and trying to think of the total package as opposed to home runs, just RBIs, just what a guy's WRC plus is. Now, in the case of Aaron Judge having one of the best seasons we've ever had, you can't ignore that stuff. And even if Jose's great across the board, you can be so good offensively that it doesn't matter. But when you do certain things like reach 50 or 60 steals and you have 35 home runs, these are the things that are hard to ignore. And on top of that, if you're playing solid defense, or even better, if you're saving runs defensively, and not just stealing bases, but also going first to third and just being valuable on the bases, period, but you also catch the average voter with the gaudy numbers, the things that they can't ignore. That is how he enters the conversation. An overall career, 3 stolen bases away from 300 and 9 away from 300 on the home runs. I mean, you mentioned the 350 thing, but we're already really close. It's going to happen here probably before the All-Star break, I would imagine. Maybe in the next month, with the way that he's going, we could see him finally enter that 300 club.
He gets to face Astros pitching this week, so it could happen by Wednesday.
Yikes. It's impressive, and it's good to see him rewarded because below the surface, we talked about it last week, and I think earlier in this year even we talked about it when we were looking at guys that have been unlucky. he's having the best under the surface results too of his career. And I know it's just a month into the season, 33 games, so you got to keep that up over a full season. It's unfair to say, well, this is the best he's ever been. It's the best over a month compared to every other season. But an expected weighted on base average, which it's never his calling card just to be great at the expected numbers. We know it's about prioritizing when, how often, how you're pulling your fly balls. There are things that he does below the surface that help him even be a better player than maybe the Savant page would tell you. But even the Savant page is like, hallelujah, when you open that baby up, because he's just been phenomenal across the board. And now it's good to see, because he's got a 229 batting average. He's starting to get rewarded because he should have been rewarded before this even.
It was one of the things that like made me make you play the club music and make this declaration that the Guardians are good and better than I thought they'd be, especially at this point, given the schedule so far. But how about the fact that he did walk so much in this series, and there were actually hitters who could make it count?
That's crazy. Yeah.
We've been saying in recent years, why ever pitch to Jose Ramirez? And now you might start to understand why. And that's, look, again, Manzardo, even Hoskins, like those guys have 2 home runs combined so far, and they have the potential to hit 50. And, whether that will or will not happen, I don't know, but those guys should do more damage. But even the people behind them, that's where the lineup has just been exceeded all expectations, whether it's Martinez, Rocchio, Schneemann. So I think, you'll get Valera in there more consistently, and I think he'll be a threat. So I just feel better about the whole group. And then if Ramirez can be patient enough to draw some walks, he's got 14 runs scored. That's not a stat I ever look at, because it is so situation and teammate dependent. But that's good that he has 14 runs scored already, leading the team, because that means that when he is walking, it's good. It's good for everybody. You don't need to try to force it.
Yeah, it's impressive that every year he still finds a way to score 100 runs in this lineup, and he's not hitting 100 home runs.
Right.
So he can only drive himself in so many times. It is impressive. It's nice to see other people back that up, but I would like to see more of that from Kyle Manzardo, who gave us a brief moment of hope that he was starting to come out of it, and then also contributes some pretty brutal at-bats as well. And still the strikeout numbers and the swing and miss is way beyond where I want to see him at. And I think this is the right call, by the way. They have been more willing to sit him to get Hoskins in there as well. I think right now, I'm not, and nobody is making the case that where's he at? Where is he at in this lineup? You need to get him all the at-bats. Let him work his way through it. Let him face the righties. Let him feel good at the plate. And in the meantime, let everyone else carry the load, and they are right now. Even outside of Jose, you mentioned Schneemann and Brayan Rocchio. This lineup is so good that you have Brayan Rocchio hitting 9th in it. I mean, it's incredible.
The thing that Rocchio's always been able to draw walks, and eventually, though, you want, and we've talked about how the key to life, the key to hitting is getting the pitch that you want. The pitcher dictates everything, but if you're not going to fall for the pitcher's tricks, you're not going to succeed. Or if you are going to fall for that, you're not going to succeed. But if you're going to be patient and you're going to swing at the right pitches and you're going to foul off the pitches that the pitcher wants to get you out on, you're eventually going to earn that pitch that you can do damage on. And the thing I've been wondering with Rocchio, because for the first few weeks, batting average really low, not much power, but drawing a ton of walks, so the on-base percentage was healthy, which is fine out of the 9 spot, especially playing shortstop. If you're going to play good shortstop and just draw a bunch of walks, that's a solid big league player. But now he's doing damage. Now that patience is paying off because he's getting pitches to hit, and he's doing damage. He's got up to 3 home runs now. He leads the team in RBIs. Again, not a stat I really care about, but I think it does in this instance give you some context and tell a story where this guy is delivering. He's got guys on base ahead of him, which is also a good sign for the health of this lineup. And so, I don't know what's going to happen here. Arias actually said he's feeling a lot better the other day, and he's been doing some baseball activities. That's going to be a while, but eventually he'll come back. Brito, it's been rough so far, especially defensively, and this is a trial period for him. He's also played 11 games in the big leagues, not ready to make any final decisions on him, but he was never going to be the long-term second baseman anyway. But Bazzana's heating up, and you've got to think about when it makes the most sense to call him up, when you feel like he's ready, when you want to see him against big league pitching, because when that happens, this is not mixing and matching anymore. This is Bazzana's at second base. And the way Rocchio is playing, I'm not touching him. Like, leave him at shortstop every single day. Apparently he loves the 9-hole, so I guess just leave him there. And that's that. Then you have your middle infield. And then it's about finding at-bats for Schneemann and Martinez who have earned them. But, again, a path you'll cross when you need to, but you might need to relatively soon if Bazzana keeps hitting. So it's great that Rocchio's done this, but it makes me really curious to see how this plays out now.
Yeah, well, it's what
It's a
you
good
want.
problem to have.
It's what you want. It's been the opposite of what we've done with the middle infield for the last how many years? At least 3, probably, and going back even further, since when there was Francisco Lindor at shortstop. Somebody has to seize this job. Somebody has to prove that they're worthy of it. And right now, Brayan Rocchio is doing the thing that you want him to do. Early in the year, he wasn't getting rewarded for some solid contact. It looked like a guy that was doing the right things, but just hadn't been rewarded for it. Not to the level of some of the really egregious guys in this lineup, but there were signs, and now they're bubbling to the surface a little bit. He's 27% above league average right now in run creation to begin the year. The walk rate is very solid, and what I really like, cutting down on the Ks, cut him in half, essentially. I mean, he's at 20%, 11% this year on striking out. So he's putting the ball in play, and it's not just weak contact all over. It's the sort of contact that suggests above average offense, and he's doing all the things right now that you would want him to do in not striking out and having solid contact. He's never going to be a guy that, just like Jose, he's not going to have these amazing exit velocities, but can he master hitting the pulled fly balls into the air to get his power? I just feel like we're seeing an evolution of Rocchio a little bit here. Not a guy that is probably going to be... I don't think he's going to lead conversations of when we're going to get Rocchio way up in the lineup. I don't think he's that sort of guy, but he doesn't need to be, provided everybody else is doing what they're supposed to be doing around him.
And that's the thing is I'm excited. I want to see more of Valera when he gets going and they're facing righties consistently, and you can stick him in like the 5 spot or the 6 spot in the lineup. And I think he's perfectly capable of fulfilling that role, and just the lineup is so much deeper. I'm not desperate to put Rocchio second like you might have been each of the last, 5 years as they've searched for someone to hit second. TJ, they ranked 29th last year in average and on-base percentage and slugging percentage. So far, they're 22nd in average. They're 19th in on-base percentage. They're 15th in slugging. That is a middle-of-the-pack offense. That is a huge improvement.
Woohoo!
Right? And look, as I say, like, oh, well, Kwan will be better and Manzardo will be better and Bo Naylor might be better. And with that, I still think Rhys Hoskins will be better. I like that he's at least drawn a ton of walks. That will happen, and Martinez will come to earth. Schneemann will come back to earth. Rocchio will come back to earth a little bit. So that stuff will even out. I do think Bazzana will be an upgrade, too, over, Brito's giving you a 507 OPS. More of Valera, I think, will be a good thing. So I do think there's still room for a little bit of improvement here, too. But you just think about, again, I remember talking to someone in spring training and saying, like, what gives you optimism about this offense? And they said, it can't be worse. That's right. But it's just been better because finally you've seen internal improvement. When they say the success of our team is going to be dictated by the guys here, so far so good on that front. And that's important.
Even Chase DeLauder, who has cooled off significantly. I don't feel like the quality of the at-bats has gotten bad. It's just in the course of the season, you're going to be seeing it. You're going to be capitalizing on it. Guys are going to be making adjustments off of you, whatever tear you happen to be on. You're seeing it, then you're processing that, and then you're coming back and making your own adjustments. I don't see anything within his profile that's like, oh, God, they figured him out, and there's no way for him to ever get out of it. No, I just feel like there are times in the season where you're getting ball up in the zone and popping it up. And I just have to work through my swing a little bit and think about how they're attacking me this last week and then make my adjustments off of it. I still see with him and his at-bats the professional quality hitter we've seen the entire time. It's just throughout the season, you're cold for a couple of weeks, then you heat back up. That's just the nature of it. Nothing has changed my mind on what we're seeing from him. It's not like Kyle Manzardo where you're like, God, I don't know how he's going to work himself out of this because it doesn't look great. The quality at-bats are not always great. DeLauder, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be absolutely fine. The at-bats still look solid to me.
His last 2 weeks, he's hitting 163, 7 for 43. But he has 9 walks to 4 strikeouts. That's
right.
I have no
right.
idea. If that's your slump, you'll be fine. On-base percentage over 300 in that stretch. So, yeah, the fact that what's the favorite cliche that writers like to ask is, do you think so-and-so is pressing? And like there's truth to it in that a hitter is going through a prolonged slump and they're like, oh my God, I got to get out of this. So I'm going to try even harder. And to me, it's impressive that a rookie might be going through it, especially relative to his first week or so. And yet I wouldn't say that's pressing if you've got 9 walks to 4 strikeouts in a 2-week span with 43 at bats. I mean, that to me says you're sticking to the plan. You're being patient. You're keeping your approach that has worked for you in the past. So I don't worry about him at all. And it tells me that eventually you're going to be rewarded and you're going to be right back to doing good things.
That's one of the first things I look at when a guy is slumping is looking at how often is he striking out? How often is he putting the ball in play? If a guy goes 0 for 4 and it was some pop outs, but he still got deep into counts and maybe drew a walk, okay, that happens over the course of the season.
He was striking
You're going to get out of it.
He was striking out way more when he was scorching hot. Like, he had 7 strikeouts in his first 5 games. And he's got 4 in his last 15.
Just a professional. Looks like he's been doing this for many years at the big league level, and I think he'll be just fine. Does he need to make some adjustments in how they're attacking him? Perhaps. Of course. Jose Ramirez needs to do that too. Every hitter on the planet, no one is at their finished self, and then that's it. They never make any adjustments off of it. We see that with Jose when, to me, I get nervous when Jose's swinging and missing a lot or he's chasing a ton, because that to me looks like a guy that's trying to take it all upon himself, and he's not at his best when he's doing that. When he's drawing walks, being patient, letting the pitcher come to him, it is when he is at his best, and we see him go through those stretches where he'll hit the ball to center field a lot. It's like, oh, he's just a little bit off. He's just a little bit off. And then it's like a process. You see that. And he's a lot of the pop outs to the shortstop, to the center fielder, big part of the ballpark, not going anywhere. And then you see like a week before he really heats up, he starts ripping the ball down the right field line, and they're all foul. And everyone goes, oh, he's way out in front. And anybody that's been watching his career long enough, no, that actually means he's close. He's right there. He's zeroing in. And then usually there's takeoff after that. I think with Chase, it's a similar thing. Okay, some pop outs, I'm using the big part of the ballpark, fine, but he'll adjust off of that. He's not letting it impact the overall quality of the at bat just based on the outcome.
Jose's last 9 games, 5 homers, 8 stolen bases, 9 walks, 5 strikeouts. So when
pretty solid.
Whose heater is most fun? Is it his? Is it the DeLauder heater that we got to witness?
Well, DeLauder, we don't really see that much. So
is it a Kwan heater where he just goes like 12 for 18 with 10 singles?
That's cool and all, but no, I need some power. I think it's Jose because he brings still the chaos element that he can win a game by legging out an infield single, taking second base, going to third on the throw, and then sac fly, and he basically creates the run all by himself. But also when he's on his heater, he can do that. He can steal the base. He's on base, and then he also backs that up with a couple of home runs. I would say Jose is probably the most fun.
What about
just
a
because
Schneemann
of all
heater?
the ways that he puts his impact on the game. I love that we're saying this about Rocchio, and the entire lineup is at least pulling their weight around him enough. I like that they're in a place where Daniel Schneemann doesn't have to get overexposed, and he can fill this role where he's bouncing around and playing a lot, but not as the actual everyday starter at any one spot, and then you just ride the hot hand when he's feeling it.
I mean, isn't this the Chris Taylor role that you've been waiting for someone to assume for years?
Yeah, good teams have players like this.
He was your opening day center fielder. He made an incredible diving stop and throw at shortstop the other night. He's played second. He's played third. He's hit grand slams. He's hitting over 300. Before the game yesterday, among players with 50 plate appearances, this is one of those stats that's twisted just to make my point. Players with 50 plate appearances in the American League, he ranked 10th in OPS. It's like Yordan Alvarez, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and then this dude who was the 1,003rd draft pick in 2018. Pretty cool.
Does he have his eye on trying to make the All-Star team as a super sub, a super utility guy?
I mean, he could be he could get the utility Gold Glove, and also,
I mean, if David Fry could make the All-Star team, why can't Daniel Schneemann doing a similar play every day, but not in the same spot? I think he could.
Yeah,
I actually think he could. And I think they would trust him to do it if they needed anybody to look down the bench and say, who could do it? Daniel Schneemann could do it.
He's that guy that you just trust. I think that's a good word. Like no matter what position you have to put him at, if you need someone to deliver in a key at bat, he's not walking to the plate and you're like, ah. It's like, oh yeah, that could work.
He might come through, yeah. No one is circling that as the hopeful outcome, but if it ends up going that way, he can contribute. He could hit a grand slam here. And I think the trust comes down to, like, he's playing third base, and he doesn't make this really difficult play because he doesn't play it every day, and he doesn't always have the nuances of the position maybe down the way that a guy that plays the position every single day. But I know he's going to be standing on the right spot of the field. I know he's going to be backing up the throw at the exact right time. I know he's going to be where he's supposed to be to do his job, and he could probably do it at any position on the field.
Let's give the guy some flowers for a second. So Stebbins and I were talking to Stephen Kwan the other day, and we were talking about Schneemann. And he was a 33rd round pick in 2018. That round doesn't exist anymore. And he was basically organizational filler. A guy who could be a versatile defender, but didn't really show signs that he was going to hit. He was old for his level. And Kwan was in the same draft class. Kwan's at High A Lynchburg in 2019, and Schneemann gets called up, and Kwan's excited because it was a familiar face. Kwan didn't know very many people there. He's all excited. Schneemann's there, same draft class. They know each other a little bit, so they're sitting down at the lunch table. They're catching up. Schneemann's first day there, and Schneemann gets called in the manager's office. Comes back a few minutes later. Kwan jokes, "What'd you get sent back down already?" And Schneemann's like, "Yeah, actually." And Kwan's like, "What the hell?" Schneemann had been called up because someone got injured. They thought they might need an extra body. Turned out the injury wasn't that serious. So they're like, all right, Schneemann, go back to, I think he was in Lake County. So he's in Lake County. Pandemic happens. There's no minor league season in 2020. And all of a sudden, this guy starts 2021 at Lake County. He's 24 years old in A-ball. And it's like, what are we doing here? And he doesn't hit there. He gets bumped up to Akron, and he hits a little bit there. Okay, whatever. 2022, spends the entire year in Akron. He's 25 at this point, and doesn't hit at all. It's as bad as it's ever been. And I think that's when it was like, all right, what am I doing here? Made some swing changes, overhauled the swing, the approach, everything. 2023 comes back, OPS of 797, spent the whole year at Columbus. Okay, might have something here. Now remember, 2024, that spring, Stephen Vogt, the coaching staff, everyone's new. You get new eyes on everybody. They fall in love with this guy. He was like one of the stars that spring, if you remember. And he ended up debuting and played a role in what was like starting in right field in the playoffs. Obviously 2025 bounced around all over the place. Like, they just love the versatility and the value that brings. There's still like room to grow. He hasn't really hit a ton at the big league level. And now, at the age of 29, he's performing. Is this sustainable? Is he going to have an 890 OPS? I don't know. But the point that Quan made that kind of stuck with me was when he was being yo-yoed in the minor leagues and was kind of an afterthought. He felt like Schneemann took it in stride, didn't deter him, and has made it so that you can, it's really hard to be that guy who blossoms late and tries to stick. And a lot of guys you're just holding on for dear life, and every day you're in the major leagues is great, and it's probably going to end at some point. But he's still finding ways to improve and make himself a necessity on this roster where they need that versatility and they need the bat right now. So kudos to him for, making it, surviving this journey here and finding his niche with this roster. And what a bright spot he's been so far this season.
Yeah, you really need players like this. And I think something has gone wrong if you are saying he is the blank, he is the second baseman, he is the center fielder. You're also, if you're plugging him in every single day at the same spot, not getting the best of what makes him so valuable to your roster. Now, that is predicated on the guys also on this roster fulfilling their jobs and not putting the manager in a spot where I have to put Schneemann in there because everyone else has sucked. And there have been times where he's had to write Schneemann's name in the lineup because just everyone else isn't doing their jobs. But when you can have him play third base one day because Jose needs a blow, then you can play him in center field because it just makes sense on that particular day, and you want to get DeLauder off of his feet, and you want him to play second base on this day because you don't feel great about the matchup with Brito, and you're keeping Rocchio at shortstop for a night. That's where the value comes in, on top of the fact that he can occasionally just get after a pitch and crush it over the fence. Credit to him for turning a point where I'm sure he looked at his career and said, this is probably not going to be it. This is not what I'm going to be doing my entire life. And it looks like he's setting himself up to have a major league career just being the guy that can do a little bit of everything. And there are plenty of people that have made their entire living on doing just that and have become somebody's favorite utility infielder for the rest of their life. That was my favorite utility infielder. That could be Daniel Schneemann. That could be that guy.
There's nothing wrong with that role. I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying it.
No, but it's so important.
Well, and it's nice when it's someone who is like leveling up to get there. This was a guy who was not expected to get to the majors, and he has made himself so valuable. Whereas I feel like for this organization, we've been saying for years, like, oh, this guy you could live with it if he's your utility guy. But you were banking on him being the shortstop of the future or the second baseman of the future.
We never thought it'd be Schneemann ending up in that role, but thankfully he's performed that role really well. So much of making sure he stays in that role is figuring out eventually what's going to happen at second base, and Travis Bazzana is making that conversation more interesting. Over the weekend, I saw so much chatter online, and particularly on Twitter, about expectation level and trying to frame what he's going to be at this level. And Zach, I think I've just kind of finally come to a point where I'm going to simplify this for myself. I can't handle what everyone else is going to do. Everyone wants to feel like they know what he is the minute he arrives. That's not me. What I have seen so far at the AAA level and really this minor league career, what we already knew about him before the draft, this guy's a major league player. I don't know how he's going to get to his numbers. I don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know if there's going to be more batting average than we kind of envisioned right now. I don't know if there's going to be tons of power. I don't know for sure he's going to be 20-20. I do know, based on the skills I've seen so far, This is a big league player, and I think a really solid one. I think a really good one. We're comparing him to what everyone else was doing in this draft class, and, well, maybe they got this wrong. Maybe. We're going to need several years before we know that. But I'm just going to stop trying to figure out exactly what – I don't need to know what he's going to be. I just know that he's a major league player. The one thing I feel really good about, this guy's going to get on base a ton, and that is always going to keep his floor pretty high, similar to what we were talking about with Chase DeLauder. But what really intrigues me is that he's been so many different versions of himself, but he's been good in every single version. He has not fully figured out what he is going to be, the sort of player he's going to be, whether it is more power, whether it's pulling the ball in the air. But every time he set out to do something and really worked at it, he sort of improved that. And this year, we talked about the batting average last year, and it's just so odd that he's got this low batting average, and he should be, at least at the minor league level, have a better batting average, as much as that doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as you're getting on base. I don't want to see a guy that just gets on base via the walk in the minor leagues. I want to see some hit tool there, right? But he's improved the batting average a little bit, and he's gotten to a point where, even if it's not elite exit velocities, to maintain a higher batting average, sometimes that means you have to flick the 70-mile-per-hour ball into left field, and it's not always about optimizing the fly ball. I think he can get back to being the full complementary player that has the full ensemble of everything he's been in his career. I think at some point he can get to that level. But, Zach, I don't need to know right today exactly how he's going to get to his numbers. I just believe that he's going to get there, and I'm going to let this kid continue to improve. I love the fact that last year, when he finally made the jump to the AAA level, and even at AA, he had a 24% strikeout rate, 26% strikeout rate when he made the jump to AAA. This year, the walks are still solid, and he's cut down on the strikeout. So it's like he's actually making a mental change. I want to strike out less. I want to put the ball in play more. Maybe that leads to lesser batting or lesser exit velocities, but maybe it leads to a higher batting average, and we'll see what this does to whatever sort of player I'm going to be. But, Zach, nothing needs to be decided today. I don't know. Am I crazy for being the only person apparently on the planet that doesn't need to figure out exactly what his stats are going to look like every single year?
I believe this was my take 1 week ago. He's not a finished product. That's okay. He can keep developing at the big league level. That's fine. Everyone wants to rush. Everyone needs to be first for some reason on this guy. Everyone needs to, whether he's going to succeed or fail at the major leagues, everyone needs to have the answer now as to why that's going to be the case. He is very clearly experimenting. You mentioned the strikeout rate, and he's trimmed it quite a bit from last year to this year. The walk rate has dropped a ton too. That's not by accident. That's a guy who's trying to be more aggressive to showcase this type of hitter he can be, because minor league pitchers will walk you, right? Especially if you have a really good eye and a good feel for the strike zone. Big league pitchers won't walk you that much. So, yeah, that's great that you can be patient enough to get on base a ton and help the Columbus Clippers win games, whatever. But when you get to the big leagues, they're going to attack the strike zone. How are you going to respond to that? And so you're seeing a concerted effort to be more aggressive, and that's going to lead to a lot of different things, right? Are you still swinging at the right pitches? It feels like every clip I see of this guy with an extra base hit, it's going the other way. Well, I want to know more about that. Why is that the case? Is that on purpose? Is it because these minor league pitchers barely hit the strike zone when they want to hit the strike zone, and so it just happens that I'm swinging a lot of pitches outside and I'm just taking it the other way? That would be a great thing. I don't know. The point is, there is also a lot of pressure being 1-1. There's a lot of pressure that you can't quite ignore when a lot of other people drafted behind you have made it to the big leagues, and some have had a lot of success. That is natural to feel that. This is a guy who is representing an entire country. This is a guy who has a crazy work ethic and an insatiable desire to figure out what he's not doing well enough and how he can fix it. That also can be counterproductive at times. And I just think the healthiest thing for him is to sort of turn the brain off and just go hit. And I think that's what he's doing right now. And so we can analyze the AAA exit velocities and the bat path and the approach and try to figure out what it all means and what it would mean at the next level. And this is what I said to you last week, TJ. I don't care. Just let the guy play. Let him play consistently. Let's get a full season with no injuries. How about that? Let's start there. And when he's hitting well and he's confident, regardless of what the metrics might convey to you about what's possible at the next level, call him up and let's see him against big league pitching. Because there's going to be more experimenting and more adapting to what big league pitchers do to him and more developing. This is not a finished product, and it doesn't have to be. But when he's confident and he's hitting well and he's feeling consistent and like it looks really good for a few weeks, get him up. Get him up. You don't need to wait. And I don't care. Like, yeah, they can cover second base with Brito and Schneemann and maybe Martinez. I'm not worried about that. When Bazzana is hitting consistently well for a couple weeks, get him up, and then let's make the next wave of adjustments.
May 8th. It's almost here.
It is. And that's
that was the prediction.
Hit for another 2 weeks and come on up.
I mean, he's dropped the strikeouts, but he's also kept the ISO over 200. So it's not all singles here. He's still finding ways to reach gaps, hit the ball over the fence to the left side over the weekend. Still flashing some power, still flashing some impressive exit velocities, but you're right, working through some things and being able to say, in certain at-bats, I'm going to sacrifice my ability to pull this ball in the air, maybe later in the at-bat, for this ball on the outer edge of the plate that I flick into left field for, as I talked about, that 70-mile-per-hour single that no one goes, whoa, that was impressive. But you know what? When you look at the expected batting average, it's pretty high, because when you hit the ball at that speed over the shortstop's head into left field, that's like an automatic single from that perspective. And you know what, Zach? He's also a guy that you threw out the name Jason Kipnis. I don't think you were saying he's going to be Jason Kipnis, but the way Jason Kipnis played the game, where he was called dirtbag and he was taking the extra bases and he was hustle doubles, and that's also Travis Bazzana too. That's the sort of taking the extra base, and we even saw him take an extra base trying to go to third base and trying to move around a guy. That is the way he plays the game. Maybe that stuff doesn't always translate as well when you're watching some minor league highlight package, but when it contributes to a win at the major league level, you absolutely believe and see it right there with your eyes.
I'm also thinking about what his profile could look like in this lineup. What has been the theme of this entire conversation for the last 45 minutes? Quality at bats, right? More often than not, Stephen Kwan's going to give you those. We just talked about how even in a slump, DeLauder is drawing a ton of walks and he's not striking out. We know that that's been Jose Ramirez's calling card for over a decade. We know when Manzardo is right, he's drawing walks and he's getting on base with the power. Hoskins hasn't hit yet, but he's drawn 11 walks in limited playing time. We've said how Rocchio, like the walk rate's great and it's fueled this surge. Throw another guy in there who can draw a ton of walks and watch, the team's on-base percentage improve even more. And I just think it, you stick him in like the 7 spot in the lineup, that's going to improve things even more. And there's also not the pressure. Like there's pressure in the big leagues, but you're batting 7th and no one is paying attention to you, right? Whereas now you're on the doorstep of the majors and you're hitting leadoff and every single at-bat is being scrutinized, and not just by the outsiders, but by you, because you're like, I gotta deliver here. I gotta get this call up.
And every minor league pitcher
that I was
you're facing,
the pick.
Every minor league pitcher you're facing has circled you as, I have to be good against this guy, because this is a guy everyone's watching, and so I'm going to be judged about how I face guys like this, and I know this is one of the guys in this lineup that can do damage to me. So I can't throw him a strike. I've got to put him on base. I've got to hopefully he gets himself out and doesn't flick that ball into left field at 70 miles per hour. All I need to do is put a baseline level here. I think this is a very good player, a very good major league player, and I think he's got the capability to do it for a long time at the next level.
Yeah, and maybe he falls short of even your expectations. But let's learn about it, and let's not rush to judgment on April 20th, 2026, about what his hard hit rate's been at Columbus over the last week.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to use short sample sizes as ways to say whether a guy is good or is back or anything like that. Speaking of which, Cade Smith is back because we saw him on Saturday. Look like the guy we have seen in the past, striking out everybody. And in all seriousness, it was one of the first times. There was an outing against Kansas City, too, where he was pretty good, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, with the locations and really putting the pitches in the right quadrants. Because if you think about the strike zone, all the pitches sort of need to go to the right spot in the zone for the tunneling aspect to work properly. And if you can't command the fastball up consistently and your splitter command isn't great, and the next thing you know, it's below the zone, and guys are able to spit on it, and then you're behind in the count, and then they can zero in on what they're actually looking for, and then you leave one in the fat part of the plate. Even with great pitches, you're facing major league hitters that are capable of taking you out of the ballpark, or at least prolonging an at-bat and waiting for the next sort of mistake that you let out of your hand. It was the first time that I felt like he was putting the balls exactly where he wanted, exactly where he needs. The fastball at the top part of the zone has really been a problem, consistently getting him there. And then the command on the splitter was as good as we've seen it all season long. And it's actually backed up in the numbers. I thought mentally, wow, his command looked like it was spectacular. Location plus in that game was 119. It was one of his better outings as far as just pure command, and the command of the splitter itself was 159. Location plus was spectacular on that pitch, and the stuff was also as good as you would expect. It was the nice combination of everything that makes Cade Smith special, and a reminder of what this guy can be as long as he's executing the way that he wants. Has there been plenty of hiccups, Zach? Of course there have. Reasons why you're at least a little bit nervous when he comes into the game, not because of his stuff or even his talent or anything like that. It's just in the course of a season, guys aren't as pinpoint with their command as they want to be. And is he going to get to that point? It further backed up that keep giving this guy the reps. He's going to get there. And the more his body gets in line with where he wants, as he's feeling good and then getting those back-to-back outings, he's going to establish a nice little role for himself. And I think he's going to be just fine. Better than fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, like, relievers are really tricky to evaluate at this time of year because not only is it a small sample overall, but every sample within the small sample is tiny. It's 12 pitches, right? And so it's tricky. You laid it out, I think, really well. I think the thing that has stood out to me is his chase rate was in the 89th percentile last season, and it's in the 35th percentile now, and that's just our hitters chasing the splitter. They're not. But they could be if he's got his command and he's sharp, and that makes his fastball play better too. So, yeah, the bullpen is weird, right? It's certainly a concern, and I assume a bunch of the names will change as the season goes on. Or maybe not. Maybe guys will figure it out. It's weird and it's uncharacteristic. They improved a little bit on Sunday thanks to 4 1/3 scoreless innings because they entered that game with a 5.52 ERA as a group, which ranked 26th in the majors. And I was listening to a couple people in the press box talk about like the last time Cleveland's had a bullpen this shaky, and someone discovered the 2018 bullpen, and like there's like a radar in my brain that if I hear someone mention the 2018 bullpen, I have to turn around and say, you don't know the things that I've seen, the things I had to watch and suffer through, and Alexi Ogando and whatnot. So yeah, you don't, you never want to be compared to that group. Man, Jeff Beliveau and who else? John Edwards, Evan Marshall. Who else was part of that? Neil Ramirez. That's the one.
Old friends of the show. Yeah. Certainly not a place you want to be. But it does. There are certainly pitchers, as we covered earlier in the show, that I think will be better. I think Hunter Gaddis, I think he can get back to just being just fine back there. I still think Sharon Armstrong, I'm not ready to smash the panic button on there quite yet. Cade Smith, I'm still feeling great about. Sabrowski, still feeling great about. And the rest of the guys, they filter in beyond them. I like Tim Herron, iron out some command issues, but I still think there are plenty of opportunities for him to be a big part of this bullpen. But on top of all of that, there are names down at AAA that are nearing a conversation. Some more than others, but Franco Aleman is having a great start to the year in
He's
his
ready.
first 7 appearances, 5 2/3 scoreless innings. Andrew Walters is going to be getting closer pretty soon, and Daniel Espino had another couple of strikeouts on Sunday. So the 3 guys that I think we're going to have our eye on in the coming months for sure.
Yeah, I think Alaman is ready whenever. I don't think there's quote unquote really restrictions there. Walters and Espino are a little tricky because Walters is still like working his way into pitching shape for lack of a better term, in that, he missed last year. And with him and Espino, it's a little bit different where Espino's fully healthy. Walters is essentially rehabbing here. And if you notice in their game logs, like there are 3 days between appearances for these guys, and it's very structured. Now, my guess is because Walters is on the major league roster, but he's rehabbing. That comes with the 30-day window. My guess is that 30-day window will expire, and they'll option him to AAA, and he'll keep pitching in Columbus until they feel like he's really ready. The trick here is, because I've seen, people want, oh, well, Cade Smith's not doing it, Espino should be the closer, and it's like, yeah, cool. But these guys haven't pitched. If you call up Daniel Espino right now and throw him into the bullpen, first of all, you're praying that he can stay healthy and make 65 appearances for you over the next 5+ months, and you have no way of knowing if that's possible. So you have to take this deliberately. And in AAA, you can map things out exactly how you want. And so they are reaching, as Chris Antonetti said, they're like reaching the next stage with Daniel Espino, which is less structure, where it's, do we see if he can go back-to-back days? Do we see if you can get 1 out in 1 inning and then 2 outs in the next inning? Things like that they want to test and see how he bounces back. But this is going to be a process. It is great that he's been hitting 100 miles an hour lately and feeling great the next day. That's the best news, aside from the fact that his stuff looks really good and the numbers have confirmed that too. But I just think you're not going to see those guys soon in the big leagues. And so that's more of, if they can build their way back and get healthy and pass every test for the next, I don't know, couple of months, then yeah, like they can certainly be a part of this, and they have electric stuff. They could be a big part of it later on in the year. I just, you're not going to see Daniel Espino pitching the 8th inning on May 1st as much as you might want.
Yeah, I know you also don't want to be wasting bullets at the AAA level, but these are sort of necessary ones to make sure that you can handle a situation where you don't know if a guy's going to pitch on a particular day. And you don't map it in. Well, when the save opportunity comes on the 3rd day, we'll make sure we get him. You don't even know if you're going to be in that, but you have to count on him.
And it has an effect on everybody else. That's the key. Is
you also have a Rule 5 guy already in there that you're trying to work. You don't even know how he fits into the bullpen. You can have another guy up there.
So if you've got, this team uses its penalty. Every team does. Starters don't go 8 innings anymore. So unless you're Parker Messick. So I think if you have Espino and Walters and Paulette in your bullpen, then you're going to get 2 innings of Matt Festa every day, because you're going to need somebody to just be able to pitch constantly, because you're being so careful with those guys coming off injuries.
It's just nice to know that the thing that has been the shakiest so far, they're already built in later in the season opportunities to be better. And even if those falter a little bit, then you go out and fix the bullpen by, trading for a guy or however you got to try to figure that. Or a starter, as the season unfolds, makes his way to the bullpen as somebody else is pitching really well. There are other ways to perhaps cover that weakness that I don't even think is really that much of a weakness, but it has been at points in the first month.
Yeah, you'll see Cody Hoyer at some point too. Colin Holderman, like, it was ugly at first. I get that. With options, like, he'll bounce back and forth when they need an extra arm. So there are people there to do the job. Colby Allard's back. You'll see him fill in innings when you need it. But yeah, I just think it's the easiest thing for them to upgrade as the season goes on, whether it's the names we just mentioned or even making a trade. I mean, like that's maybe we don't see some of the blockbusters we think we're going to see every year in July, but like good relievers always get traded. And so that's always in the back pocket if you absolutely need it.
Let's wrap with Parker Messick, the guy that set the tone for the entire weekend with that outing. At what point did you think, because the guys carry no-hitters in the fourth and fifth innings, at what time are you starting to actually take notice?
Well, you know my tendencies and my rituals better than anybody, right? And so I made so many mistakes that night. I was working on a different story that had like nothing to do with the Guardians. So that's mistake number one is I just my attention was diverted elsewhere, and like, you know, you're paying attention to what's happening on the field. You see the zeros every inning. You're wondering like, is this legit or not? But like I'm fully invested in what I'm working on, which it's going to take away. Number two, because of that, I skipped my fifth inning nighttime caffeinated tea. So wasn't properly energized. And I even said to someone as I was like getting stressed in the seventh inning, I'm like, it's too early in the year for this. I'm not built up. I'm like any other player where I'm like a little rusty. And I've had like the same... I've had a version of a certain lead or intro to a story for like the last 5 no-hitters they've flirted with. Okay. Because they all have to tie back to the fact that this is the pitching factory, and somehow the pitching factory can produce great pitchers, but not a no-hitter. You know, they have the longest drought in the league, 45 years. Len Barker, we know. And so then I don't know, it took me a while to get going, but then I threw on the Coldplay and the Florence and the Machine and the Radiohead, and the words started flowing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I felt like I've got an awesome lead and an awesome story. And then I'm like, all right, usually I'm like, no, please don't, like, I kind of don't want it to happen because I wasn't mentally prepared to have to work this hard on a Thursday night. And I don't know. I don't like my story. And I was like, no, this is the story. Let's go. And I thought he was going to do it. You know, you want the guy who's going to attack to be on the mound, right? Yeah. And he had been so efficient for the first 6 or 7 innings. And so, yeah, the pitch count got a little scary for the Guardians coaching staff really late. But before that, he was cruising. It also made me think I absolutely need to just publish a book of all the stories you never got to actually see. The things that I wrote that then had to go in the trash bin because the thing didn't pan out. But yeah, I mean, it was electric. Like, it's crazy. It's fun when before the 9th inning, his ERA was down to, I think, like 0.34. It's like you almost wanted him to, if he wasn't going to throw the no-hitter, just stop pitching. Because I want to see how low you can take that ERA.
I mean, I understand the whole aura aspect of when the guy goes out for the no-hitter, the 9th inning, the whole visual of nobody being warming up is all part of the spectacle of it. At the same time, I think I'd want somebody throwing like immediately. I kind of like, hey, can we do this? Can you put like a tarp over this so no one can see him warming up just in case? Because I don't want even Parker to look back there and think we don't have the confidence that he's going to be able to complete this, but the pitch count is getting high, and you don't want to. The last thing you want is for him to lose his game, and then for you, obviously, for you to lose the game, but also to make it look ugly. You don't want to have something that is so great to eventually look ugly because you are pushing somebody beyond maybe your expectation level for what they should be able to handle just because of the moment. And so that's all in my brain is working through this. Not only is now things getting way too interesting for anybody's comfit, but also you're making his line score.
There was rain coming,
right?
Too.
Guys lined up, the grounds crew lined up down the tarp. No, this is all bad. The last thing I want is to look at the line score afterwards and not be reflective of how amazing that guy pitches. So unfortunately, it did take a little bit of a blemish to the ERA, inflating it way up to 105. I don't know how we're going to live with this. 9th in Fangraphs wins above replacement among pitchers in the American League, earning it it was so fitting that we just had the show like 12 hours beforehand, before the game started, probably even less, 9 hours before the game started, saying, when are people nationally going to actually pay attention to Parker Messick? And we listed the
That's
career
why
numbers.
I wanted his ERA to stick at 0.34. I think then they would have.
It was incredible that you could be 11 games into your big league career, 65 and a third innings, a 2.07 ERA. Oh, well, that's just 11 games. Let's look below the surface. Well, there's a 292 expected ERA, 280 FIP, 312 xFIP. The only thing that might have like the slightest, and when I say warning sign, I just mean that he's not quite the best pitcher in the world. He might just be solid, is the Sierra, which can be predictive. But even that, I just feel like because he's a guy that we know he's unafraid to throw strikes. But on top of that, he's unafraid to throw them, and he has so many pitches that he can throw for strikes. He is the total package of a guy that when you don't have any one pitch that is absolutely the best thing you've ever seen, throw a crap ton of them, make it so you're not very predictable, which he is not, and in any count, he has the confidence to throw any pitch in the zone for a strike. So even if you get him behind in the count, which apparently doesn't happen very often, but if you do, every other pitch you'd say, here's my fastball. Nope, you're not going to get it. Here's the changeup. Here's any other pitch that he's capable of throwing. And he just... not only does he know how to throw them for strikes, Zach, he hits we were talking about with Cade Smith, where you're looking for certain quadrants of the zone with the particular pitch. He just hits all the right quadrants with the right pitch in the right time. I think he's got the ability to always outpitch whatever the metrics say he's going to outpitch because of all of that.
Yeah, Austin Hedges, who, congrats on your engagement. And has caught all 4 of Messick's starts this season. And I think it's 8-0 now. Is this just the starting catcher, which is interesting. He kind of backed up what you're saying, where there was one start this year where he threw a ton of sinkers. And then he threw 2 the other night against Baltimore. And the changeup is always going to get a ton of swing and miss. That's going to make the fastball play up. Drop in the sweeper. I mean, he's just got a lot of weapons. Yeah, they all do something to help the cause. And he's I don't know how else to sum it up other than he pitches like he's been doing this for a long time. And that he's honed his arsenal and his approach over years of experiences and failure. No, he's made 11 starts in the big leagues, actually. It doesn't seem like it.
No, definitely not. And I'm just anxious to see where this goes. So many young, you just bake in that, well, he's going to regress back to just what an average pitcher would do, or what below the surface the numbers suggest he should be.
Yeah, that was the ninth inning. He regressed.
The numbers say this is who he is pitching to this level. Incredible start to the big league career, and fitting that people around baseball started to actually learn his name as he carried that no-hitter into the ninth.
Even though his ERA more than doubled.
Something to keep in mind and work on. That's good. I want to dangle the carrot in front of him, keep him hungry. Your ERA should have been lower.
Well, if he would have finished it off, we probably would have had to break in with an emergency podcast with more club music.
We probably would have, yeah. So... that's not our fault. Put that on Parker. He should have finished it off. Thanks for being here, everybody. Subscribe down there. We don't do the call to actions, but subscribe, follow the show. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Remember that being a thing? Yeah, do that too. And we'll see you later this week at Patreon.